All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we actually have 1/3 of one of the best hip hop trios, in my personal opinion, of all time. We actually have Mr. Funke of Lords of the Underground right here, live on the line, man. How are you doing this evening?
Thank you for that intro. What's good, brother?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Just trying to stay positive down here in Canada, man. Just putting in work and interviewing amazing individuals like yourself.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. What's up, Canada?
But I know you're a very, very busy guy, Funky, so I'm going to dive right in this interview, man. But I want to take you back to the beginning of Lords of the Underground, man. And I just have to ask, like, how did you actually get connected with Do It All and DJ Lord Jazz, man? Because you guys have such amazing chemistry when all three of you guys are together.
Oh wow. Okay, so long story, but I'm gonna put this in in a small suitcase. Uh, we all met actually because of education. We all met at college at a school called Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Shout out to Shaw U Bulls. Um, now it was actually Lord Jazz's idea to put me and Do It All together as a group. And so we always look at him as kind of like the founder of Lords of the Underground. You know, he's like the progenitor, the spark. But we met at school. We were, I was an MC. He was an MC. We were amongst a lot of dope MCs that actually went to the school and from the surrounding area. Turns out that we were just the two best that Lord Jazz knew when he was approached by L.A. Jackson about starting a group. So that's pretty much how we became a group. And Marley came down to Raleigh, North Carolina to DJ at one of the clubs, and we ended up rocking one of our demos, performing for him, at a show. And from that day on, he wanted us up to the House of Hits. We ended up signing our first contract January 12th, 1991. So we were like kids coming into this.
And your guys' first album as well was actually produced by actually the one and only Marley Marl, man. I was wondering, like, what was it like just actually having such a legendary East Coast individual produce your guys' first project?
Well, you know what? It was a learning experience. Definitely an education in how to make music. See, a lot of people who are inside and outside of hip hop, they don't really know. Marley Marl pretty much invented sampling, like sampling as it's known today. That was started by Marley Marl, and his genius, like to be in the studio with him, to like be amongst like genius. It's like being around Beethoven when he was writing for Elise. It's the way that he works and the way that he has this subsonic, subconscious ability to appeal to people through sound. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's the best way that I can describe it. He's super dope. And not only that, he's a real producer in the sense that, me as an MC, I had to take a couple of lessons from Marley, because there would be a couple of times when we were in the studio, when we first recorded Psycho and Check It and Funky Child and Chief Rocker. There would be certain times where I would be rapping the verse, and Marley would just, would stop the tape and say, why don't you try, that was a dope line, but why don't you try to say it like this? Now, as an MC, as a real MC, you don't want for anyone to tell you how to do your rap. Like that's like a no-no, because you never wanted to be seen as a biter or as having ghostwriters or anyone writing anything for you. It's all about originality and whatever you say being your brainchild all the way through. But I had to take a lesson from Marley because he understood. He has such an understanding of sound, and you don't really get it until you spend time in the studio with him.
And I gotta say, he most definitely is a masterpiece of what he does, man. Even throughout the years, man, I think he's still doing his thing today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. I mean, he's like, I don't know. To watch Marley in the studio now, it's like, you remember Data from Star Trek? The way that he moves when he's touching those boards, that's how Marley is. And Marley can literally put a beat together. It would take like a minute and 10 seconds. And he's like moving his hands really fast, and you hear all of these crazy noises, and then a minute or 2 minutes will pass, and then all of a sudden this genius will come out. Super dope to rap.
And also, as well, by the end of 1993, you guys actually won the very first BET Award for Best Rap Group of the Year in 1993. I was actually wondering, can you tell our listeners a bit more about that? And of course, how did it feel to actually be recognized by that organization for the very first time?
Yeah, I see you've been doing your homework. Not very many people remember that one. Back then, hip-hop, like now, but it was different back then. Extremely competitive, and you couldn't just be okay. I think a lot of stuff falls through the cracks today. But if you weren't on your thing and you weren't talented, and your talent didn't shine through in your work, back then people saw you. People saw through all of that. And it's like, we were the type of group that you may hear Funky Child, and maybe you don't like it. But then you come to a Lords of the Underground show, and then you watch us perform, and then that's where the belief kicks in. Because people would see that, damn, they really believe in themselves.
And I gotta say as well, man, it's actually pretty cool that you guys actually got that award as well, because especially back in those days, unfortunately, hip-hop was never really recognized, unfortunately.
We were delving into a space and trying to make room in a space that didn't really want to make room for us. And what I mean by us, I mean hip-hoppers in general, whether you're from Cali, whether you're from Texas, from Philly, from Florida, from New York, didn't matter. If you made hip-hop, you were kind of infringing on a certain genre of music's actual, space. So, naturally you run into roadblocks, but there's nothing they could do now. You're number one.
And also as well, in 1993, you actually did some phenomenal work on LL Cool J's 14 Shots to the Dome album on the song No Frontin' Allowed. I was wondering, how did yourself and Cool J get connected? And of course, what was it like just working on that project with him?
Funny story. Okay, so now if you ask me and you ask Do It All and you ask Lord Jazz, we have three different versions of this story. But I remember the first time that I met LL. And it was our first or second time coming up to Marley's house, which is the House of Hicks, to record Here Come the Lords. As I'm walking in, we hear, I'm walking in behind Do It All, and, I can hear something going, just that sample. And that was the point where Marley was recording LL's Mama Said Knock You Out. And I remember going upstairs from the studio, and as I'm walking down the hall towards the room where I was going to put my things, this guy comes out of the back room, and he's got this Atlanta Braves baseball cap, got the T-shirt on. I look up, it's LL. And he looks at me, and he's like, "What's up?" And then you can imagine my jaw was on the floor because I never met LL before. To see him, just chilling at Marley's house, that was amazing to me. But that was all through Marley Marl.
And I gotta say as well, like, you guys did phenomenal work actually on that project, man. But yeah, especially being just such a young artist at that time, man, it must have been a surreal moment just to actually walk in and actually, like you said, just see LL Cool J just flaunting around Molly's house, man.
Well, you got to understand, we were so young, man. We were living a dream. To record a song with who at that time, even at that time, in my eyes, was considered a legend. It's nothing short of a blessing.
Yeah, because LL at that time, he was doing stuff that was backtracking to the mid '80s.
I mean, even to this day, I mean, you can't, you try to touch that brother's pen. Trust me when I tell you, LL could go then and you can still rock now.
And also as well, the following year, November 1st of 1994, you guys actually released my personal favorite record, which is Keepers of the Funk, and I was always wondering, like, what is the story behind that monumental album? And of course, what was it like just being in the studio creating that, man? Because, like, I have so much memories of just sitting back listening to that record.
Well, one thing that we always paid homage to was the funk aspect of music, whether even if it was jazz, you know, it was like funky jazz, you know, like we had this acronym that we used to say back in the day, we do funky jazz, and if you really look into that, you'll see do it all, Mr. Funky Lord Jazz, do funky jazz, and that's what we kind of was always all about. And as far as the funk, and if you know anything about Keepers of the Funk, you know that George Clinton was on the title track for that record. He was on the Keepers of the Funk record, and it was just a homage, just paying homage to the aspect of the music before us that kind of had one of the biggest influences on our style and the way that we, just the way that we viewed music.
And I gotta say, that song, What I'm After, featuring Redman, will always be one of my favorites, because I know back in the day, Redman was actually Do It All's DJ, so I'm assuming that's how you guys initially got connected with Redman.
Well, you gotta understand, there's 6 degrees of separation between pretty much every well-known MC and not so well-known, because there's a lot of, artists from Jersey, whether they just gained, like, regional popularity, or whether they actually have, huge hit records. We're all intertwined somehow. Milk is big, but it's small at the same time.
And also as well, in '96, you actually had the opportunity to work with female R&B trio 702 on their No Doubt album. I was wondering if you can tell us a bit more about that experience, and of course, how did you initially get connected with those three very talented ladies?
Actually, that particular record, I believe they sampled some of our work. It wasn't necessarily a collaboration, so to speak, but we did approve the sampling. So I mean, but it wasn't necessarily a collaboration.
Oh, okay. I always thought like you guys actually had the opportunity to work with them, but hey, like they always say, you always learn something new every day.
No, but I like 702. That might not have been a bad idea.
I gotta say, you know what I mean? Having those three ladies on one of your guys' courses would have been phenomenal.
Super dope. I like them as a group. Yeah.
And just when we're on that topic, since we're on the topic of that, were you actually were you guys satisfied with the way they actually sampled your guys' music?
Well, what happens most times, as I'm sure you might know, like if you sample someone's music, they're going to hear it before you put it out. If you're going to try to clear it, most times we have to kind of be happy with what was done. There's been a couple of times where our music was sampled and we didn't have any knowledge of it, but it came out and it blew up. Things happen, but most of the time we do approve most of that stuff.
And also as well, during our interview with DJ Lord Jazz a few days ago, he actually brought up briefly about a Lords of the Underground album that unfortunately never got released due to our record label folding. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about this iconic album that we haven't heard, and do you think down the line you guys might actually drop that so our listeners can actually enjoy it?
Jazz must be talking about When the Smoke Clears. When the Smoke Clears is, yeah, definitely a dope project. Like, looking back, might be our best work, but it was never released. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, Lord Jazz, he's kind of like the Lords of the Underground historian. He keeps all of the archives. He has old footage, pretty much every album, every project, pretty much every feature that we've done. I'm pretty sure Lord Jazz has it. So, I mean, there's a possibility, and we would have to look at things and go back and see what the statute of limitations on certain things are. But, When the Smoke Clears definitely deserves some to be heard. It was a dope project. I think the reason why even, Lord Jazz still talked about it to this day was just the creative freedom that we had on it. It felt like, when you get into your second and your third album, the old saying, you never start working hard until you made it. Well, I mean, when the smoke cleared, the hip hop had become fun again. It was like a turnaround. Like it wasn't. It was just we were just rocking, and we felt free, and everybody, just the whole vibe and the energy behind that record was very upbeat and happy, and we were making some of our best hip hop at the time. It was just unfortunate that the record label folded.
And I gotta say, I really hope down the line that us fans get the opportunity to hear it, because just hearing what you said about the creative freedom, man, that's the best thing that any artist could have, especially back then in the '90s. Like no record label telling you what to do. You can listen to that project and just know that it's all 110% Lords of the Underground.
Well, I mean, if you go to any piece of work from Lords of the Underground, I mean, for the most part, it's the subconscious energy behind a lot of our records that ability to forget where you are, that ability to forget where you're from or what you might be going through. And I mean, even to this day, I get a lot of DMs or emails from young kids. They hit me up and they're like, "Yeah, man, you helped me get through high school. You helped me get through college." I'm like, "How old are you?" "I'm 21." Wow, okay. Like I literally get those regularly, and it's just a blessing. It's a blessing to be able to give someone that feeling. I mean, the true sign of any great artist is that individual's ability to translate a message or an emotion through their work. It doesn't matter whether you're a painter, a sculptor, a singer, a dancer. If you can change someone's emotions with your work, you are an effective artist.
And also, as well, jumping ahead in the timeline there a little bit, I read that in 2015, Complex actually placed Chief Rocka on its list of the 100 greatest hip hop beats of all time. I was wondering, how does it feel to know that Lords of the Underground is still getting recognized by hip hop media over 25 plus years later?
Well, it is a testament to a few things. One, our ability to show people that we weren't fucking playing. That's number one. The two is the music itself. I mean, and I put what I said at number one first because you have to believe in yourself first. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. Our ability to do hip hop our way and not follow what everyone else is doing, because it's real easy to talk about. You get a lot of these rappers and they talk about, well, I talk about what I see in my hood every day. Well, I think that's intellectually lazy. Some people listen to music to get away from what they see in their normal surroundings every day. To me, that shows a lack of creativity. But, I'm an MC's MC. I'm a little more pure, more of a purist when it comes to my pen and my ability to translate emotion and message through my pen.
And I gotta say as well, like when I was reading that article, I saw it was actually placed around number 80, and I gotta say, me personally, I think that song should have been placed at least at the top 10, man, because that beat will forever be solidified within hip hop, man. That beat will always go hard.
Whoa, cool your jets, man. Listen, do you know how many hip hop records there actually are to be even seen in the top 10,000? You are blessed. So you can't shortchange yourself. like honestly, man, it is a huge blessing. I wouldn't care if they put us at 99.5. That is a huge blessing. I'm appreciative of that. You know, that's all that a true MC could ever hope for is to be given his roses while he's still alive. You know.
And also as well, December 15th of 2017, you actually released your solo album titled God from the Machine Part 1. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a story behind this amazing album, and of course, is it still available actually to be purchased or streamed today?
Yeah, that's actually my album. DXM Part 1 was a project that just stemmed from, throughout our travels, because we travel all over the world, touring, at least before, the whole pandemic or whatever. We would record, just record in between shows. We go to certain places, and we always have this extreme need to we're creatives. So wherever we go, we're going to find a lab and we're going to go to work. And through the years, I would record solo records and things like that. But and there's been a couple of times where I was offered, solo deals outside of the group, or, because of my loyalty to Lil Tug, I would never really accept. But at this stage in my career, it doesn't make sense to not, do whatever you can creatively, whatever to keep, as long as the fire is still burning, we're going to create. So DXM Part 1 is a record that I came up with. The concept it would take me too long to really explain to you, but just know that it was a culmination of a few years worth of work, and when I by a few, I mean like 15.
And I gotta say as well, I absolutely love the record. One of my favorite songs off that project is actually Where Your Mama At, man. In my personal opinion, my favorite joint off that record.
Really, thank you very much, man. Thank you. I'm a little unorthodox with some of my stuff. I try to, a lot of my fans don't like to hear me do downbeat stuff, like things that are, slow. They're used to hearing beats with a lot of bump and a lot of energy. And just sometimes, me as an artist, I like to slow it down a little bit and kind of, really just talk some shit. But yeah, that's one of my favorite records off of that record, along with Everything I Love. Yeah, Everything is a great song too.
And also as well, just last year, February 21st of 2020, Lords of the Underground actually released the album So Legendary that was actually produced by the Snow Goons. I was wondering if you can tell our listeners a bit more about this most recent release album. And of course, how did it feel to be back in the studio with the rest of the guys since the first album since 2007?
Okay. Newsflash, that album has not been released. It's still waiting to be released. It was supposed to be released in February of 2020, actually, and then the pandemic ruined everything. But not for nothing. It pretty much shut down the whole industry, for a good while. And if you look around, things are really just starting to kick back up, even while we're still in the middle of all of this mess. But I will say this: if you like Here Come the Lords, you're going to love So Legendary. That is a dope album. And Snow Goons really laced us with the beats, and just I think this record right here, it doesn't remind me of When the Smoke Clears, but the vibe is the same. The feeling of just, I'm gonna say whatever the hell I want. I'm gonna, this is gonna be meaningful. It's gonna mean something. And I think when people hear this record, I think they're gonna have a better understanding of our faith. The chemistry of Here Come the Lords is in that record. The chemistry of Keepers of the Funk is in that record. Hell, the chemistry of Resurrection is in that record. So Legendary is I think it's going to be one of our best projects.
And I gotta say, it most definitely does sound like a phenomenal project. I'm definitely excited just to actually get my hands on a copy.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. As soon as it's mastered and we're good to go, trust me, we'll hit you up, brother. We'll make sure that you get some joints to spin because that's a dope record. As a matter of fact, get with me behind the scenes, man, and we can build on that. I can let you hear some stuff. It's dope.
Hey man, I can't say no to that one, man. You know what I mean? If you're willing to open up the floodgate and let me actually hear a little bit, hey, you know what? Any hip hop fan would be stupid to turn that one down.
Yeah. You know how a lot of people say, oh, you hear this record, you're going to be surprised. No, there's not going to be any surprises. People are going to hear this and say, okay, so they're going to say, yeah, this is Lords of the Underground. This is the Lords of the Underground that I know and love. So that record is dope, all the way through. Straight to the point. So Legendary. It's dope.
But I have to ask, man, what is next for yourself, Mr. Funky, man? Because I do know, like we just talked about, that brand new Lords of the Underground record, is brewing, it's in the pot. But other than that, what is next for you? Is there anything we missed? Anything else you still want to talk about or promote? Well, we still have you here live on the Canadian airwaves this evening.
Yeah, actually, I just arranged to start work on my second project. It's going to be called DXM Part 2. There is another series. My brother Do It All. He has an album called Brenda's Son that's supposed to be releasing really soon, and I may be doing the sequel to that project called Brenda's Son 2. And the funny thing about that is both our mother's name is Brenda, so he calls himself Brenda's Son, and I'm going to make Brenda's Son 2 because I am.
And I gotta say as well, you know what I mean? It sounds like you're most definitely the perfect fit for that project, just judging by who your mom's name is and, of course, the project name.
Well, when you Do It All's project is dope. That's another thing too. If you ever when it drops, you guys gotta pick up Brenda's Son. But to me, that's his best project, his best solo project, and it's a lot of songs that really hit home, especially for me. And I think I'm being a little partial because I was there, so I know the history. I know the history behind some of these records and stories behind some of this stuff. But I think it's universally attractive to the ear. Just musically one of if not the best project from Do on because he's had quite a few solo projects. I think it's his best one.
But also, Mr. Funky, this is the time in the interview, man, that I give a chance for the individual that does slide into the radio station airways right before we wrap things up. Just like a chance to give, shout-outs to whomever they want to give shout-outs to. But most of all, man, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything Mr. Funky of Lords of the Underground if they're not already doing so.
Yes, sir. You can reach me on Twitter at Mr. Funky1, the number 1. You can reach me on Instagram. The real Mr. Funky. Yeah, I don't have TikTok and all of that stuff. They stole the name of one of my songs, so I don't really rock the TikTok.
Honestly, I don't blame you myself. I end up falling into the trap and getting one, and I'm gonna be honest, it's not really that appealing to me. I put a couple videos on there to promote the station, but other than that, I'm kind of sitting back being like, damn, this is kind of stupid.
Well, one thing about, like I said, if there's one thing that I could tell, if I was any advice that I would have for any up-and-coming artists, anyone out there that's looking to do this as a profession, if you want to have any type of longevity in this business, put your head down and do your work. The work will speak for itself. Anything that you achieve in this business, especially the hip-hop side of this music media business, it will be the result of work. You will not buy a car, you will not buy a house, you will not buy anything that is not the result of work.
And I gotta say, that's real talk, and most definitely probably the best advice I probably ever heard.
Do the work and they will come. That's the thing. If you build it, they will come. That's right. Build and they will come. Also, be on the lookout for DSM2. Be on the lookout for So Legendary, the new album by Lords of the Underground with Snow Goons on the production. Shout out DJ Lord Jazz. I think he's working on Plain Dealer 2. I think. He's down there in Florida living the life, but he needs to get to work on Plain Dealer 2. Plain Dealer 1 was one of my favorite projects from anybody in the crew. Like I said, Do It All has Bring Your Son coming out, and I am going back in to work on DSM2. I'm going to finish this record this year if it kills me.
And I gotta say first and foremost quickly, Mr. Funky, I gotta say thank you so much for just giving us a bit of your time this evening, and also thank you for making amazing music that all of us adored for so many years, man. I grew up on Lords of the Underground. Your guys' music helped me get through a lot of difficult times, man. So thank you for just making monumental music that all of us loved for so many years and for so many years to come as well.
Now, do you hear what you just said? Now you have to imagine there are 1,000 rappers probably listening to your show right now that have never heard anyone say the words that you just said to me. So tell me I'm not blessed by all the God. But we are so lucky, and it is a blessing, to have your work remembered and appreciated. Because that's all that any artist could ever want, bro.
And I gotta say, it most definitely is true. And I can tell you guys for a fact that you guys will always be solidified within hip-hop. You guys did some things that I don't think any other individuals will be able to do, man. You definitely put a lot of individuals on the map, and you definitely helped stamp New Jersey on the map as well.
Well, again, and the fact that we did it our way. We did hip-hop our way. And for it to be appreciated, even if it was just by one person, if it was just one person, we Lords of the Underground, we used to have a saying, 1 or 1 million, because no matter how many people show up at a show, whether it's 5 people in the audience or whether it's 1 million people, we performed in front of 90,000 people at one time, 65,000 people at one time. This is all fact, documentable. 20,000, 50,000, 5, 100 people. It doesn't matter. We rock the same, no matter who's there. So, I mean, and if you, like I said, to all the artists out there, keep doing you. Keep your originality, hone your talent, build and do the work, and the rest will come to you.
I gotta say, Mr. Funky, thank you so much again, and definitely I'm looking forward to these brand new projects, man. Hopefully we can make this happen again sometime soon, but for now, definitely have yourself a wonderful night, man. Thank you so much again.
No doubt. Shout out Canada, shout out Lords of the Underground, my bros, Do It All, Lord Jazz. We here, man.
Most definitely, Funky. Thank you so much, man. Have yourself a wonderful night.
Yes, sir. Peace.